Sly Scotty, could Jeremy Lamb or Hassan Whiteside revive their careers with the Warriors if the Dubs were to sign them in NBA free agency? So Jeremy Lamb, I'm not sure what type of player he is now and how much he has left. He has not lived up to those expectations outside of 2 years where he really just shot the basketball well and scored it, but wasn't efficient in his NBA career. He's had some decent moments, but last year really struggled from the field, around 30% from three, and that's what his game should be built on, is knocking down some three-pointers, especially with where the game is nowadays. So I'm not sure about Jeremy Lamb. I think he is the player who he is. As for Hassan Whiteside, the Warriors, no question, could use another backup big. Yes, you have Kevon Looney after you brought him back in NBA free agency. I think the world of James Wiseman. If he can stay healthy, I think he can just be a force on both ends of the floor and give so much to this Warriors team athletically that they haven't had at that 5 spot in a really long time. But they could use another backup big, and Hassan Whiteside was pretty good as a backup last year for Rudy Gobert. I mean, he can give this team 8 points and 7 rebounds and a block and a half per night without having to space the floor. So I would like the latter there, Hassan Whiteside. Appreciate the question, Sly. Let's get to this from Chua Lore. Can JaMychal Green provide defense for the Warriors? And why haven't the Warriors signed JaMychal Green? So there first has to be a buyout for Oklahoma City to officially allow JaMychal Green to become a free agent. Once he becomes a free agent, as Sham said last week and as we covered on Warriors Today, the expectation is that JaMychal Green is going to sign with the Golden State Warriors. He's basically your Otto Porter Jr. replacement, a guy who has size, who can knock down the three, who can come in off the bench if you need to start him. He has experience starting throughout his NBA career, although he's better suited to come in off the bench. I'm not going to go as far as to say that JaMychal Green is better than Otto Porter Jr., but he's along that type of stretch of players that is Otto Porter Jr. First question kicking off this mailbag coming in from Chua Lore. Should the Warriors check in on Colin Sexton? No, I don't think so. You have a really good guard coming in off the bench in Jordan Poole, and Colin Sexton could make a lot of money in the future, which could rival what Jordan Poole makes. If you want to pay one, you have to choose one. And I'd rather go Jordan Poole over Colin Sexton. I like to retain my own players if I'm running an NBA front office. Of course, it does come down to talent level, but is there a big gap between Jordan Poole and Colin Sexton? I'm really not sure. I like the player who's been in-house. I like the player who the Warriors have developed, and I think he's only going to continue to get better. I'm keeping Jordan Poole, not going after Colin Sexton. Some might say the Warriors are offseason winners. They won a championship and they were able to get good value deals and replenish that talent to a certain degree. But who do you think is the biggest NBA offseason winner? Give me a name right now in the comment section. Don't panic, RS. Do you see Draymond Green leaving the Golden State Warriors? Which team other than the Warriors would be his best fit? I think Draymond is a pretty unique player in the sense that if you put him on different teams in the NBA, he might not be able to raise up the level of play of his respective teammates like he's been able to do with the Warriors. That's just a happenstance of him falling to the Warriors in the second round, falling to the best team, and then having the perfect pieces around him to succeed, utilizing his defensive ability, utilizing his passing ability, his just basketball savvy smarts with finding backdoor cutters, setting screens at opportune times to free up some of the shooters around the three-point arc. Now, there's no question, defensively, still one of the best in the league at this point, even at 32 years old. But his value wouldn't be felt as much for other teams unless that team is loaded with some really good complementary pieces. You imagine him going to a team like the Miami Heat, that would be a lot of fun. You imagine him going to another really deep team in the NBA like the Phoenix Suns, my goodness. He'd certainly elevate the other players on that roster. So that's kind of how I view that. Bob Berta, NBA breakout candidates. This will be the last segment, or the last question, in our mailbag. Yeah, you know what? I sometimes I just plan ahead and I put together some of these lists. Last week, it was my top 10 players, and we have this in the database, some of my NBA breakout candidates, because we like to stockpile these graphics in case we do them on a show at some point. So good job by producer Coop for pulling this up, but Here's some of my breakout candidates here. And I'm going to exclude rookies because that's kind of our chat sports rule, right? How can a rookie be a breakout candidate? But year two guys and beyond, they can be deemed as breakout candidates. Tyrese Halliburton has been really good throughout his NBA career, but I look at breakout candidates like in the running for most improved player, and it's kind of a combination of both. Halliburton can become, I believe, a borderline superstar in this league and a future all-star. He was awesome for Indiana last year, really good for Sacramento. One of the few players in the history of the NBA who's actually wanted to play for the Kings, and they still dealt him away. Jalen Green, last couple of months of last year, arrow pointing up for him, started to find his groove, started to have some confidence. Early in his rookie campaign, it was a little bit rocky, really started to turn that corner and turn it on at the end of the year. OG Anunoby, just look at the numbers that he's put up the last couple of years, continues to get better and better and better and better. He's always had the length, the bulk, and the athleticism, but with OG Anunoby, the offense is what continues to blossom. And then Jalen Suggs, big year two for him. And this is a team that I think is a good complementary cast for what Jalen Suggs does well. A little bit confused as to why Orlando played him so much off ball last year, also dealt with a couple of injuries. But if he can settle into that point guard role, I think that'll allow him to kind of maximize his ability. So right there, 4 breakout candidates for me. Lazy Laker. What's the latest on Kai Sotto after he didn't get drafted? So just some context, during the NBA draft lead-up, we were talking a lot about international prospects from all across the globe, and there was a big interest in Kai Sotto because we have a large Filipino audience. By the way, everybody in the Philippines tuning in, if you were impacted by that earthquake that registered on the Richter scale of more than 7, I hope that all of you are safe and sound in the Philippines because we here at Chat Sports love you. And Kai Sotto, hopefully him and his family are okay because he was attempting to be the first Filipino basketball player who was born in the Philippines to get drafted. Now, Jordan Clarkson and Jalen Green are of Filipino descent, but Kai Sotto was trying to make history. As we know, he didn't get drafted. So here's the latest with Kai. He did go undrafted. I thought this was weird that he didn't participate in the NBA Summer League. Would have been a great opportunity for him to showcase his skills. The average attendance per day at a couple of those Summer League games, 11,000. They broke records, and he could have played in that and gained a lot of traction, maybe signed a UDFA deal. I've always said this. If Taco Fall and Boban Marjanovic can play in the NBA, I think Kai Sotto deserves a shot. Because he didn't play in the Summer League, because he didn't get drafted, he is under contract in the NBL in Australia, one of the best international leagues in the world with the Adelaide 36ers, and he's expected to assume a larger role with the team because the 36ers are going to lose some players in that front court. So this past year only played about 15 minutes per game. The production was pretty solid. This upcoming year, maybe he even improves his stock a little bit so that he can carve out a role on an NBA roster. Jay Fish, Draymond Green threatens to team up with LeBron if not offered a max extension. You put Draymond on the Lakers, that's an interesting team. LeBron at the 3, let's say the wing. Draymond at the 4, Anthony Davis at the 5. You got to figure out point guard and 2 guard. Maybe you trade for Buddy Hield. You bring in a solid point guard who can play make and maybe not be a primary scorer, but Colin Sexton. Look, I think you just make me the Lakers general manager after I just did that. Now, find a way to make it happen, right? Trade for Colin Sexton, trade for Buddy Hield, LeBron James at the 3, Draymond at the 4, if he opts out next year with that player option, and then Anthony Davis at the 5. That allows you to compete for a championship over the next couple of years. Also, LeBron's status, his future in LA, that's also a little bit unknown because he's going into the final year of his deal as well. Before we continue on our mailbag, taking all these questions from our loyal subscribers, you might be subscribed, but are your notifications on? If they're not, make sure you turn them on. Therefore, anytime we go live, anytime we publish a video, you will be notified and receive that push notification. How do you do it? You follow the steps right here to my right. You go to the settings portion on your app, on your phone, scroll down, tap YouTube, tap notifications, and then turn on allow notifications. Therefore, again, once we do anything here at Chat Sports, you will stay in the know.